This video may include stories around difficult topics such as sexual assault, domestic violence, stalking, physical violence, mental health triggers. I acknowledge that this content may be difficult. I also encourage you to care for your safety and well-being.
I faked a seizure to get out of attending a wedding. It was a toxic couple that fought openly at their rehearsal dinner. 100 degrees, late July in KY. One of my best decisions ever. They had a very public and ugly divorce a year later.
My dad was not a good parent and extremely lazy. When I would wake up in the middle of the night and ask to go pee, he would just put me back in bed and tell me to go back to sleep. It got so ingrained in me to sleep through that internal alarm that tells you to get up and pee that even now in my 20s the only reason I don't wet the bed is I've learned to not drink anything an hour or more before bed and to force myself to use the washroom right before I go to sleep. I wake up painfully dehydrated every day, but it's better than being an adult that wets the bed. My father has doomed me to a lifetime of the most embarrassing and awkward struggle.
I was molested by my grandpa from about age 5 to 9. I never told my parents or friends but did tell my therapist. I drunkily told my, also drunk, fiancé after about 2 weeks of dating, but he's never brought it back up. I don't think he remembers. I don't plan on telling him. As payback, my step-grandmother left me a diamond ring that just appraised for over $30,000 a year ago, among other jewelry that appraised for about $5,000. No one in the family understands why she left that to me, and I'm not saying a word. I feel as though all my friends are too good for me and the only way to be entertaining is to act silly because my true personality can't carry a friendship. If anybody remembers the toy, Sock'em Boppers. Basically they're blow-up boxing gloves that are shaped kind of like lawnmower tires. They didn't need to strap or tie around your wrist to stay on because at full inflation the hand insert was tight enough to snug your wrist. Well, one day I'm lying on the couch and my little brother decided to whack me in the side of the head with one when I wasn't paying attention. His fun was cut short, however. He immediately took off the bopper and lamented that it was wet inside the hand insert and that it stunk. Confused, he walked away. I had been using it for a pocket pussy. When I was 15 I tried to end it. My parents were out of town for the weekend and on that Saturday night I went into their medicine cabinet and took an ungodly amount of every pill in there. To this day I have no idea what I took. Wrote out a long-drawn suicide note. Locked my door and fell asleep on my bed. Sunday morning my parents came home much earlier than I expected. I had left a small desk lamp on in my room and when my parents got home they tried to get into my room to turn off the light. I was obviously unresponsive and my parents freaked out so much that my dad broke down the door to my room. My dad shook me awake asking me a million questions angrily, like why was the door locked, why I wasn't responding and what was wrong with me. I groggily lied and told them I was super tired and didn't feel good. They hesitantly believed me and left my room. When they left I grabbed the note and destroyed it. Went out into the living room and cried on my mom's shoulder for what felt like hours. When she asked me what was wrong I just told her I had a really bad weekend and nothing else. To this day my parents joke about how I sleep like the dead, not knowing how close I was to actual death. I have never told my parents what happened that weekend, or how they unknowingly saved my life. To this day I still own that little desk lamp that I left on that night, and turn it on whenever I'm feeling depressed as a reminder that all you need is a little light to get you through the darkest of times. This was 16 years ago next month.
I used to put croissants through the self-service as bread rolls. They weigh roughly the same so it won't set them off and it comes in as half the price. Peppers still get weighed as onions. Come get me supermarkets. I stopped talking to my brother because he fucked my girlfriend. He begged me to forgive him and I told him no every time he asked. He killed himself just a couple weeks after the last time. I've never been able to forgive myself. When I was a kid, I once took a drinking straw and blew air into my piss hole just to see what would happen. There was a weird gurgling sound, like boiling soup. Scared the hell out of me. I was worried I broke something. Stupid kid. That's not how blowjobs work. I hear voices in my head. The reason why I haven't gotten rid of them is because they keep me sane. I was suicidal at one point when they first started talking me. They talked me down like any normal person, so now I hear them, constantly telling me they love me and to keep moving on. They encourage me to get help, to talk to people, to not let myself fall back into the depression. I know I'm insane, but I was so much worse without them. I've only told one other person about it, mostly so if I start going crazy. So far, 3 years later, all good. 10 voices, all different personalities but all very comforting.
I'm a mom but I hate being around other moms. I'm not even sure why but I find it annoying. I also hate talking about our kids all the time and nothing else. I also have part of a tattoo that I secretly like even though I give people a BS excuse as to why I got it so I don't seem like an idiot. I think about suicide and death every day. I could walk out in front of this car. I could grab the steering wheel right now and kill myself. I could just walk into the ocean and swim. I'm not tempted but I think about death, my death, a lot. Like probably too much. I walk home from work and think, I wonder if I'll get hit by a car. It doesn't frighten me but I don't want it to happen. It's become a surreal matter-of-fact thing that is part of my routine. I wonder about people who choose to go through with it and why they would want to because we all have to. Dying is the scariest and hardest thing anyone will ever do and we all have to do it. I'm not suicidal. Just obsessed, fascinated with death and mortality. I've got my funeral pre-paid for, and am currently in the process of finalizing my will. I adopted a minimalist lifestyle, so that it wouldn't be very obvious when I started getting rid of my stuff. I even adopted minimalist eating habits so that any foodstuffs left behind are likely to be non-perishable. Basically, I'm setting my affairs in order so that when I die, the only things that'll remain of me are memories and a teddy bear. I don't want to inconvenience anyone. While I don't consider myself suicidal, I spend a lot of time working on the plan to make certain that my death won't cause any real difficulty for anyone in my life. That same desire to ease my passing is also what keeps me from suicidal thoughts. The idea that any positive impact I've had during my life would be negated by an untimely end. I haven't told anyone, though I'm not using a throwaway here. It's not exactly a secret. I just figure most people assume I'm joking when I tell them I spend a lot of time pondering my inevitable demise. I suppose I can be proud of myself that this is the only answer I could think of regarding a deep, dark secret, though. I changed my last name to my mother's maiden name when they got a divorce after my dad tried to kill me and my brother after abusing us our whole lives. It was about $500 all said and done and worth every penny for my sanity. When you have the money and it's something you really want, don't hesitate because of the hassle. You are you. Just because you share the same name doesn't make you bad. When I was going to school we were really poor. My mom would regularly be in tears about bills. I used to sneak my lunch money back into their possession by hiding it in laundry, jackets, cars, or her purse. They were always so happy and relieved to find extra cash they had forgotten about. At the Embarcadero BART station there used to be an elevator that went from the train platform up to the gates, but it opened outside the gates so you didn't need to swipe your card to exit the station. I used to buy a cheap fare in the East Bay where I was living, take the train into San Francisco and use the system to save myself $8 per day in commuting costs. I did this for years until finally a BART cop stopped me. I gave him my out-of-state driving license which I also had illegally retained. Said I was new to the city and didn't realize you had to be charged. Exit out the gates. Somehow he believed me but I never tried that ruse again and from that point on paid full price. My girlfriend got extremely sick while we were sleeping next to each other. Like roll over off the bed and cover the floor in vomit sick. I don't have the stomachs for it and I started feeling sick as well and before I could get out of the room I vomited all over her trash can. I immediately got out of the room and finished up in the restroom and then her roommate's sister comes running in. She heard me bust out of the room and came to see what was happening. There was vomit everywhere, an unbelievable amount for a small girl and it was everywhere. She got my girlfriend in the shower and asked me to watch her while she got to work cleaning up our mixed awfulness. It took her a while and my girlfriend threw up a few more times from what we found out was food poisoning. Eventually most of it was cleaned up and I put her back in bed and I have not told a single person that it wasn't all her vomit and I had in fact covered the other half of the room. I really hope she never reads this.
I would probably never consider myself an atheist, but I certainly don't believe in many of the core tenets of my professed religion, and I have very serious doubts about most of the others. The biggest problem is I've come to these conclusions only after recently marrying my very conservatively religious wife, and taking a job at said religious institution as a minister. I'm in a bad place right now. My brother was always, off. I genuinely think he is a sociopath. He was a bully when we were kids. He would put tacks on the ground and call our baby niece over to him. He hung me from the balcony. I nearly died. If my uncle hadn't found me, I wouldn't be here. That's just what my family openly knows. What they don't know is that he sexually abused me from a young age. He'd push me down the stairs leading to the basement garage in our apartment complex, laughing the whole time. He lured me into the woods once to show me something. He had tied a cat to a tree in the woods. Its legs were bent at odd angles. They were broken. But it was alive. It tried to get away from him. He just smiled. It started screaming, and I turned and ran. It went silent before I got out of there. Later, my mother asked me if I wanted my brother to be sent away to live somewhere else. After all that other shit happened, I told her yes, and I didn't explain further. My brother was sent away to a group home. He is now in prison. Edit, he visited a couple times after he was sent away. The last time I saw him, he pulled a knife out on me. At first just to show it off. Then he started talking about blood. I told my mother and he wasn't allowed to visit anymore. I haven't seen him in person since. He started calling while I was in college, asking for money and other shit. He got out earlier this year. He wanted to live with me. He told me he was on the sex offender registry, so I'd have to disclose that to my landlords. This was before I started living in my car. I told him I did when I really didn't. He was locked up within a month of his release. I'm glad he is back there. I'm still dealing with a lot of issues he instilled inside of me. That's just one slice of my family's fucked up pie. Edit 2, wow. I didn't expect anyone to care, let alone respond. Thank you for the encouraging words and the support. I'm in a tough living situation that I'm working hard to get out of. My family isn't the most supportive bunch, as y'all have read. So I really am taking these words to heart. I haven't told many people about Chris or what my brothers have done to me. Most people don't really wanna know that stuff anyway. If you wanna talk or help out in any way, just PM me. Even some nice words can do wonders. Life is difficult for everyone. Bad stuff happens all the time. But I believe that we can rise above our past. It just takes time. On a side note, I'm not a medical professional. Many have told me that ASPD is what my brother has. I also wanted to say he was possessed by the spirit of a demented asshole, but I thought some more concrete terminology would be more appropriate. I know my brother well, despite him being out of my life for the most part. He doesn't know right from wrong and he has terrible impulse control. I honestly worry that he would seriously hurt someone if he got out again. Edit 3, today, July 23, my brother was released from prison. He called and told me the good news. He wants money and the addresses and phone numbers of family members. I'm not too sure what to do about it. I was gonna make a joke that if I wind up dead, then he did it. But it feels too morbid now. Edit 4, he is blowing up everyone's phones. My mother thinks I gave him everyone's numbers. I'm not sure how to proceed.
My whole life's an act. I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing and what my actual personality is. Somehow I'm coming out on top, but I've become whatever I feel like in the moment. I don't know who I am. There was an opportunity I had exactly once, wherein if given the chance, I absolutely would have shagged my cousin. Yes, roll tide, haha, it was at a family reunion. She was a cousin of similar age who I was only related to by marriage, and who I'd met only a couple of times before. Tall, pale skin, dark hair, thick in the right places. Right up my alley. There was immediate sexual tension between us, I felt it clear and familiar, but despite how attracted to her I remained as neutral as possible in interaction and demeanor towards her. I did not count on her being so friendly with me though. She invited me to hang out with her, just the two of us, and watch a movie together. So we talked and whatnot, got to know each other a little, and moved into the TV room to watch the movie together on the couch while the family was elsewhere. We got closer and closer on that couch, watching Dirty Rotten Scoundrels on DVD, enjoying the movie but also with the thought in my head that I fully intend to see where this relationship between us can go. Unfortunately, or perhaps fortunately depending on who you ask, we were interrupted. We thought we had some time alone but family came trickling into the room, then it was time for family activities, and our plan to hang out was stymied. The disappointment on her face was as obvious as it could be, and it hit me pretty hard. Now I look back on that day and wonder what could have been. Totally would have hooked up with her if things went that way. I was bullied really badly as a kid, and it was one of the factors that led to my suicide attempt at 8. The kid who bullied me killed himself a few years ago, and when I found out I was glad. I don't know what word to use exactly, but I felt like I finally beat him. I won and he lost. I still have a hard time feeling sad when the anniversary rolls around and everyone is talking about what a wonderful guy he was and such a loving son and brother and blah blah blah. He wasn't, he was a Satan spawn who made my life a living hell for 3 years. And I'm glad he's dead. I feel guilty about feeling that way though. Not the deepest or darkest, but if I never did it, things would be hugely different for my brother. My bro was a typical lad when younger and always had girls in tow, mostly them chasing him. He treated some of badly, not violent, ever, cheated often, saw himself as a player. He had a couple of longish-term girlfriends, but the last one he was more into than the others. Problem was, she was high maintenance and would also wind him up, make him angry to the point that he lost his temper with her a couple of times. He never got violent, but did get close once. He'd held her up against a wall and he realized that that was it, he needed out. So he ended the relationship, and after a short time she started asking afterwards him again, messaging him, calling him, saying she wants him back. This happened on and off over a few months, and it bothered him that she wouldn't understand he was serious. But he did start coming round to thinking of getting back with her. Then, me and him accepted work a couple of hours south from our hometown. In the first week there, we went out and got drunk. He lost his phone. Had to get a new number, and so contact with the ex was broken. After some time, she appeared back in conversation. He loved her, he missed her, but he knew she wasn't good for him. One night, she texted me, asking to speak to him. I was surprised that it took her so long to realize she had my number, and I replied saying he wasn't interested and she should give up. She didn't reply and she never messaged again. I know that if I'd given my bro her phone number, they'd have got back together and God knows what would have happened. Instead, many years and other relationships later, he's with a woman he does love and she's good for him. Also, they have kids. He has zero idea about what happened. I'm sure he wouldn't be bothered nowadays, but still I'll never tell him.
It terrifies me to think about how completely and utterly lost I would be without my wife and daughter. Almost to the point where I'm worried my actual existence is completely and totally defined by my need to be a husband and father. Maybe, in that sense, I'm also scared of the fact that I have nothing else to offer the world other than being a family man. Edit. Thank you everyone for the kind words, encouragement, and philosophies I can use in my day-to-day life. Especially thank you to the individual that called me a betabucks. I definitely needed my daily reminder that I'm not alpha enough by admitting a secret or insecurity. Maybe it's an alpha move to admit it in the first place. A few years ago I noticed I started lacking my emotions. I didn't think much of it because I couldn't, and still can't, afford therapy. I also thought it would just pass. Well, it hasn't. What really reminded me of this lack of emotions was when my so asked what I would do and how I would feel if she died. I thought about it and nothing came to me. I couldn't even imagine myself upset for it. I lied and told her I would probably be depressed for 6 months to a year and eventually work myself out of it and start look for a new person to share my life with. I only said that because I knew it's what she wanted to hear, is she has this weird thing about me not being alone. She smiled and went back to watching TV. I continued to think about other important people in my life dying. Honestly, didn't care. My youngest brother just got his Eagle Scout award. We had a ceremony for it and everything. I didn't feel a thing. I think my mom may be noticing because she asked about my mental health at my brother's celebration, but I lied and said I was just really tired. I know my mom is too busy moving to bring it up again. I haven't told anyone because I don't want them stopping their lives to try and help me out. By November this year I'll have a couple of debts paid off and I'll be able to afford therapy, which will be good for me because I have more baggage than my current lack of giving a shit. I once killed a mother duck with a slingshot. I am so sorry. I didn't think that I would hit. Sometimes I wonder what happened to the baby ducks. I was a stupid 11 years old. It still haunts me. My ex gave me herpes and lied to me about it the entire time. Crazy thing is, not even she knows I contracted it. I accused her of having herpes towards the end of our relationship, and it resulted in a whole physical assault on me, punching, chalking, shirt ripping, etc. No, I did not raise a hand to her. I got the hell out as quickly as possible. She was a peach. Our relationship was almost over by the time I realized what she had done, so I never wanted to admit it to her, didn't want to give her the satisfaction. Here I am years later and still can't bring myself to date anyone. I don't even know how to admit to it, how to bring it up, when to bring it up, etc. Obviously it's not something I'm going to hide from a potential partner, so I've just grown to accept my forever single fate. My friends and family always ask about my dating life and why I'm still single. They just think my ex fucked up my head really bad and I'm some sort of woman hater. If they only knew.